6 o'clock. I will call us to order. And we'll go with roll call vote first.
Who's ready to go?
Brandy Pelletier.
Christy Wood.
David Lacho.
Matt Jazokis.
Ann Pierce.
Jason Henry.
Tim Broderick.
Heidi Duford.
Doreen Wittenberg.
Lauren Ferruccio. Eliza Trollet.
Mike Folan.
All right. And I'm going to ask you all, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, agenda review.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I would like to move Ms. Kimball's spring 2026 Costa Rica trip to right after public input.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other changes, additions, subtractions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So passes. Next up is the August 19th, 2025 approval of meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the August 19th, 2025 meeting minutes. Second. Christie, second.
Dealer's choice. Any corrections? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Also approval August 19th, 2025 non-public session.
Make a motion to approve the August 19th, 2025 non-public session. Sorry. Second.
Dealer's choice. Any questions or concerns on that? No. Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. We will now open our first public input. And if there's anybody in the public like to speak, come up to the mic, say your name. Yeah, this one is it's on the agenda, yes. Okay. At this point, I'll close public input. And from there, we will start with reports.
Are we gonna go to Ms. Kimball?
Oh yeah, Ms. Kimball, thank you. I put her in my arrow right there. Come on up.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you need me to explain? Do you have it in front of you? Do you have questions? We are looking to go to Costa Rica again in 2026 of the same exact April vacation, same days missed as last year, needing that Thursday and Friday missed of school to be excused. Obviously, under the rules of the handbook with all of the students in good academic standing according to all of their teachers, and we will be traveling throughout that. If approved, we'll travel through that week, through the April vacation and back on May 4th. I would ask for a little leniency on the day we return, just because with flight delays and whatnot, with flying on that Sunday, it's a really busy travel day back, and we did hit a couple of snags. We wound up being back in time for everything and for the kids to be in school on Monday, but once I get the itinerary and the airfare is booked, it typically, after it's approved, the kids sign up and the tours and the flights get booked around December at the very latest, so I can give exact itineraries and phone numbers and hotels and contact and all of that once that process gets going. And I thank you for putting this on the agenda when you did, because Peter Long and my contact, Chelsea at Explorica Tours, offered us an extra $200 off if we were able to get the students in by September 30th. And then the other bonus, which was kind of nice, is any students that have traveled either with Peter or myself with the same company, they're extending another $100 off of the kids' trip. So that's a nice incentive for that. So this trip is much like last year's. It was beyond all of our expectations, safety-wise, quality-wise, food, our tour guide, and you can see I love our tour guide, and I've actually, I was kind of stern with Explorica and said, we'll come back if we can have the same tour guide. He was stupendous with our students. He played soccer with our kids on the beach. He was a naturalist. He was a biologist. He loves his country. And I think he represented his country really well, and our kids were phenomenal ambassadors for this area. Angela was able to dig into her sea turtle research and share that with them. We actually visited a place that she had taught before and had done some studies. We're not headed back to that place. We've added 3 new places. So one is another national park, the Manuel Antonio. Another one is on the Gulf side. That the Cajuita is the name of the national park, but it's a different small town. And so there's extra opportunities for now a sloth rescue center, a butterfly sanctuary, and a bat tour was something that was new. So the activities the kids do, what was different than maybe what you saw last year, I did not put in all of the activities. I wanted to see who was going to go and who wanted to do the kayaking and who was up for zip lining and horseback riding and whatnot. And I wanted you to see what the prices were with that built in, because the kids that ended up going were really adventurous, and we were told by both the bike tour and the kayakers that our kids finish faster than any other tour. So we do have some athletes that do like to be active on the trips. Quality-wise, it's fantastic. I tried to put some pictures in there, and I appreciate that you were able to see some of them. So if you have any questions, please fire away.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the spring 2026 Costa Rica field trip.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Anybody have any questions, comments, or anything?
Great pictures.
I would love to show you more, so another time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you guys very
Thank
much.
you
I
so
appreciate
much.
your time. Thank you for consideration.
Now our reports. School board, finance.
So in your packet, you have a revenue and expense report, as of September 12th. Still fairly new, September 11th. Still working on getting things encumbered. Salaries are in good shape for encumbrance wise, but all the other things we're still working on.
Great.
Fantastic. Any questions? Heidi? No, see none. We'll move on. Counseling Center, report, the chef.
Very nice report, very thorough. Great to see that a lot of supports and programs are offered for our kids.
Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Seeing none, thank you very much. That brings up the principal's report.
I put 4 different presentations in there, and it covers everything from special happenings in the school to how exactly I'm reminding and training staff to safety-related items and everything in between, including a special report from our librarian who runs this center we're in right now. And I just want to underscore that she is now certified to certify as a Google Education trainer, which is a big deal. There's only a few of these people in the state. That's a really, really big deal. So it's amazing.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And 3 of New Hampshire's Google certified trainers work here.
So lots of information there. Happy to answer. Happy to answer any questions, comments, et cetera, if anyone has any.
Any questions of the principal? Thank you for your report, appreciate it.
Yes, very good report.
Okay, buildings and grounds, that's also in our packet.
Those of you who serve on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, Mr. Leclerc wasn't able to meet tonight, so I wondered if you might want to try to do that before the next JMA meeting so we can just get an update on summer work. And if that works, I'll ask Sarah to email you all. I sent you an email about this earlier, but I'm putting it on the record here. If we can arrange that sometime in the next few weeks, it might be good to do that.
Whatever Eric wants to do.
Yep.
He's chair.
Okay.
Sarah will figure it out with you all. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on buildings and grounds? Seeing none, hearing none. We will now move on to the, oh yeah. Yeah, I got it.
Student report.
Yeah, Jude, student report.
So I put together just kind of a brief rundown of some of the things going on in the school. Since the year just started, there's not like too much, but I spoke with some members of all the different sports teams, well, except for volleyball, but I didn't get to that. But basically sports is doing well. And then in the music department this summer, they had like a music camp, which I thought was really interesting. And I had the chance to go to that. And there was like 40 different kids who came each day. It was like a 3-day long thing. And that was pretty surprising because for the past few years, our school's music department has kind of dwindled in like the number of kids participating. But this year, band and chorus both have like over 20 more kids than they had for the past few years. So that's pretty exciting. And then some other exciting things coming up for our school is homecoming week. So that's from September 29th to October 3rd. And then the homecoming is October 4th. So.
Nice.
Any questions of Jude?
Lots of fun things.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good job, Jude.
Now we're up to technology report. In our packet. Anybody have any questions of technology? Seeing none? That brings up to curriculum assessment. Matt?
Yep. So as you know, we kicked off our embedded honors with our grade 9 cohort. Similar to last year, we will be conducting some surveys of the students as individuals, but also as cohorts to kind of get some more baseline data. We had them last year, even though it wasn't embedded honors last year, but again, we'll continue to use the same tool and conduct those. That will take place in October, so I'll have some information either November or December once we're able to collate it and take a look at it. As part of this process, we're also offering support, coaching support, so teachers can meet one-on-one, or the departments can meet as a whole, or whatever their needs are. So we'll continue to provide that, both from Allie Brown, our consultant, but also with our dean, Kristen Lee, who's doing a lot of visits to classes and providing feedback for that. So early on, it's been going pretty good. STAR testing will take place the week of September 29th. One of the things, as I said in my previous board report, Dave and I will be taking a look at the data and then sharing it with the department heads and then disseminating amongst the faculty in math, ELA, and probably at the whole school as well, just so they can kind of see the data. We're also looking at talking about whether or not we want to continue with STAR, or whether or not we want to look at the PSAT 9 and the PSAT 10 as a preparation for the SAT. Similar to like we talked about with the SAS and doing the modules, it might be better off if we did it at actually the same time as the 11th graders do it, so that we can go year to year to kind of see that growth. So we'll talk a little bit more about what the merits look like there, and then come back to you with the recommendation.
So the STAR is like a really short test, right?
Yes.
How long is the
Yeah, it's
9th and 10th grade?
The PSAT 9 and 10 is longer. It's not as long as the SAT 11. It's a couple hours long versus the 3 hour plus because it's not as intense of that piece of it. I've done this at previous districts, and they talk about from 9 to 10, 10 to 11. Typically, growth is anywhere between 30 and 100 points on your SAT. So, because they get used to the test, they understand how the questions are being asked and things like that. So, we'll take a look at that and see whether or not it's feasible for that piece of it. And again, we'll take a look at what makes sense in doing it. Is it in the spring like they would do for the 11th grade, so that again we can track year to year. So we'll have some more information on that. The cost is very similar to what the STAR would be, so it wouldn't be necessarily a huge change in the budget for that part of it. So our system-wide literacy committee will be getting going again. Those on there are the 4 highlights that we're looking at. Again, we're going to continue to work on building system-wide knowledge in the science of reading. We'll do that in a variety of fashions. facilitate structured collaboration, because as we go through this, we're gonna start to look at programs and really break down some of the programs that are out there to determine which programs we're gonna wanna pilot, and then be able to not only pilot them, but also provide professional development about how to implement the pilot, because otherwise we're really not getting the data that we would need. So you'll hear some more about that, and we do have Eliza. If Eliza's going to continue on that, we would need another member from Alton to be part of that.
Here,
So
I
Mike's on
think
there?
it's
Okay.
Mike.
My apologies if I forgot. I'll make sure you get on that list. One of the things that I'm going to bring to you each month is Ed Law 306 updates. There's quite a few of them that are coming up. One of the big ones is going to be for next year's incoming grade 9 students. There will be a change to graduation requirements in terms of the breakdown of them. Most notably, English is going from 4 to 3.5 credits, and half of that credit has to be a writing course. It can be embedded within the classes, but again, it has to be a half a credit there. Mathematics is 3 credits, which hasn't changed, but they had a 4th year, which was a math experience, and now it's going to be a half a credit in either stats or data analysis. Logic and rhetoric is a half a credit that's new, and so we're trying to figure out if we can embed that into a class or if it's going to be a standalone, and you can kind of see the breakdown. One of the changes is in the past it used to be 6 credits in open electives. It's now 4 because of the changes they made. And again, this is on what would be the state minimum requirement. And so throughout the next couple of months, I'll be bringing you other updates on ed laws, because there's a variety of them from school counseling to credit versus competency-based and things of that nature. So,
Thank you.
and this is ongoing with our administrative team as well. They're reviewing it as well. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions of that? Again, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
And now we're moving right on over to superintendent's reports.
So my report is in your packet, and it aligns with the long-term goals that we've set and over the years and reviewed annually, that I also shared with you in a memo, looking for any feedback you might have. After last month's meeting, I haven't heard from anyone, but I'm still open to additional feedback if you do have any for me. So just covering the things that are in that set of goals. First, on open enrollment, we have 32 open enrollment students at the high school. I've given you a little bit of additional information tonight about some of the objections other districts have raised. As you know, one case is before the Supreme Court. That's the Pittsfield School District. And the case is not against Prospect Mountain High School, it's against the State Board of Education, because the State Board of Education already ruled with us in that what was a parent complaint. There was never a conflict directly between our district and another district. There was a parent complaint. The State Board of Education ruled with the parent, and that school district is now taking the State Board of Education's decision to the Supreme Court. Those briefs have been filed, arguments have been made, and those parties are waiting for a Supreme Court decision. In the meantime, there's more and more public discussion, and if you haven't heard it, just wait, you will. There will be more and more public discussion about this. So to get ahead of that, one of the things I wanted to point out to you is that one of the talking points that a lot of other superintendents and school board members have regarding the concept of open enrollment, which is a law that's existed since 2009, not something we created, something the legislature in New Hampshire did, signed by a governor, right, more than 15 years ago, is that districts that receive students send tuition invoices to other districts. This is the thing that people tend to be upset about. And the talking point that a lot of these other districts are starting to illuminate is that they think they should have local control over where locally raised tax dollars go, which seems to make a lot of sense. And what I wanted to point out to you is that regardless of how you feel about that, because that makes some sense, locally raised dollars maybe should be under your control. In New Hampshire, school districts receive adequacy aid and differentiated aid from the state. So those are not locally raised funds. That's state money that comes to our school districts. So I shared with you in your packet a chart that shows the 10 school districts in New Hampshire who receive the most adequacy and differentiated aid on a per pupil basis. And you'll find on that chart some nearby school districts. So if we send an open enrollment tuition invoice for, say, about $13,000 for a student to a district that's receiving, say, $12,000 per pupil in state aid, the locally raised dollars that they're being asked to contribute to that child's education are about $1,000. This is a detail that I predict people will not talk about very much as legislative engagement proceeds. They talk about various objections that folks might have to open enrollment. Look, personally, if the legislature wanted to change the way open enrollment is funded and simply send money to open enrollment schools from the state and save our business office from having to send tuition invoices to other school districts and save me or Matt from having to interact with other superintendents who are having feelings about it, I think it would be great. So if the legislature wants to change it, wonderful. And if there's a bill in front of the legislature this year proposing to do that, I will go testify in support of that bill. Please do change the way this funding works. This, again, we didn't write this law. By doing this, we have created a situation where maybe it will get figured out. And in the end, that'll be good for families and kids in New Hampshire, I believe. And it'll certainly be good for Alton and Barnstead taxpayers and for Prospect Mountain High School, which is what you hired me to figure out, is how to protect the taxpayers and the kids and the staff at this school. So that's where we are with open enrollment. And I thought sharing some of that data, because again, you're not going to get that level of detail, right, in sound bites and news reports. So I figured I'd take this opportunity to share that with you. The Granite State Academy Alternative Program has just launched. They are not educating any New Hampshire students yet. We have begun meeting with them every other week. We have set up a Granite State Academy space in Infinite Campus. So now instead of having 3 schools in our drop-down menu, we will have 4. K-12 education is paying the cost to Infinite Campus of setting that up. Or actually, we sign the contract, we'll pay them. We send a bill to K-12, and K-12 reimburses us. So that's where that sits. At the moment, they are currently advertising for 2 New Hampshire-based full-time employees to run that program. Progress toward other goals. Addressing enrollment decline is the strategic objective we talked about years ago that the last 2 things I've reported on really kind of fall under. Capital planning, I have request sheets ready to go out to each of the 3 schools, so I'll get those out this week, and then we'll meet with administrators and department leaders from those schools, we being Matt, Heidi, myself, just to talk about the kinds of requests they think we should think about as we revise capital plans. And that should be done by the middle of October. Remember, in December, I want to bring you here a revised capital plan for the next 5 years. I think I haven't shared with you this document before, but it's attached here. There's a draft of this thing called the Annual Compliance Calendar attached to my report. The original is color-coded. I think it's been copied and printed and recopied, and maybe it's not color-coded anymore. So in not just New Hampshire, but in every state, there are certain reports and requirements that every school district is subject to throughout the annual calendar. So the beginning of this document, the header reads Annual Compliance Calendar, Prospect Mountain Schools. So it starts with July, which is the beginning of our fiscal year. The first checkbox items in each month are obligations we have to the Department of Education. Then there are other legal requirements that we might have each month. And then there are local requirements, which are ours, things that we need to do or expect our staff to get done. This is a new draft. I think I told you last month that this was one of my goals this year, was to work on this. I've reached out to the new commissioner and her staff, and not only are they willing to help, but we have a meeting next month to create this for use in every district in the state, because it turns out that it makes sense to have something like this. I used to work in a state where the Department of Education published something like this, and it's awfully handy to have something hanging on the bulletin board next to your desk that tells you all the things that need to be done this month so that you don't forget any of them. So there's just another thing I've been working on. So that's a draft that'll continue to be refined. And then central office consolidation, I'll see some of you tomorrow afternoon with our lawyer Jim O'Shaughnessy to talk about the legal process that's required to merge an SAU or multiple SAUs into one. This is different from merging districts. This is not creating one school district. This is creating one SAU. Some of you are familiar with this, and that SAU serves multiple districts. But why that's different and how that's different is part of what we can cover in that meeting tomorrow. So I think you'll get much more of an update from the Shared Services Committee in October. And if you have questions, I'm happy to respond to them.
Any questions of the superintendent?
No.
I just have one, though.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think the goals are appropriate, and I appreciate the updates.
Can you give us an update on busing? It's been an issue here.
Would love to.
in School.
So,
Nightmare.
from the Thrill Share email that's going to go to high school families sometime this evening. So yeah, it's been a good start to the year in the schools, not so great on the roads. Worse in Barnstead than in Alton, for sure, because Alton had returning staff of first student to cover most routes. Not all, there have been a couple of snafus, but it hasn't been as bad. First student has 9 drivers in their training program right now, 8 of whom are coming to our system. One is going to be up, I think, in Shaker or somewhere nearby, but they all run out of the same regional office. But in the meantime, they're using substitute drivers, qualified drivers, drivers with CDLs, drivers who are appropriately licensed, but not drivers who know our routes, know our kids, know our schools, know our routines, and some of them not drivers who are going to be here permanently because the drivers who are in training are going to be. Until they have these drivers on the job full-time, permanently, we're going to continue to have substitution. You know, one of the problems is somebody calls in sick, somebody can't come in for a couple of days, and they just don't have anyone to cover that route. And then everything gets turned upside down. And that's happening either the night before or the morning of, in some cases. I met with First Student Management last week on Wednesday because it's been too much. It's just been unacceptably chaotic. And I set communication expectations with them. You know, I can't create drivers out of thin air. They're working on that. But we can expect communication. The expectations we set that day were first, when and how their drivers report back to their dispatcher. We dictated some of those terms. Normally we would leave that up to our bus company, but we dictated that if a route is 10 minutes or more behind, that driver has to inform their dispatcher. Their dispatcher has our principals' cell phone numbers and is to inform our principals anytime they're in that 10 to 15 minute late window, so that our principals then have the opportunity, and they're going to make a judgment call, but our principals have the opportunity to send a text, a push notification, a phone call, an email. We have one system that can do all those things or any combination of those things all at the same time. So our principals can communicate with parents and guardians when we have those conditions. That's been problem number one, and I can try to attack the communication part of it with First Student while we wait for them to have the personnel they need. The other piece is, and this is more of a statewide phenomenon because we're not the only ones seeing a labor crisis in bus transportation, is sports are becoming a bigger and bigger problem all over the state. In fact, I happened to be with a couple of you today when you got the message that an athletic contest had been canceled, and that was due to another district not having transportation, not us. Last week, we lost a high school varsity contest here because our opponent didn't have bus transportation. So this is not, I'm not making an excuse for our bus contractor. This is the condition all over the state. I would even guess that it goes beyond the borders of New Hampshire. We are all struggling with having enough people to drive buses to provide all of the transportation we need for our kids. Again, First Student has enough people in training that I think they will get their act together for us over the next handful of weeks. That doesn't make this any more pleasant, but at least I think there's light at the end of the tunnel with them. Did that answer your question, Mr. Henry?
Yeah, and I talked to the athletic director, same thing. All the ADs are struggling right now. Multiple games have to be canceled. They're trying to scramble with buses, or if the school has vans, like we use our vans here. It's been a very frustrating season around for multiple different schools of canceling games that you hopefully can still make up, but they don't have drivers, so how do you make it up? It's gonna be a rough fall, all the way around. And that's why I asked the question, because we're gonna get tomorrow night at Barnstead too, because over the social media, but we've been trying to work with the bus company, and we can't produce drivers, but there's been several meetings about communication and made some strides, but they're still not quite there yet, so more communications of fixing their communication. So, any questions of the?
Is there a timeline on when those drivers in training will be active?
Around the beginning of October is what they're telling me.
All right. Yeah. It's not good times. Just flat out say it. All right, we are now up to action items. And general assurances is the first one.
Make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 general assurances.
Second.
Seconded. All right, so we have a motion second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All right, we have already done the Costa Rica trip,
Yep.
so we're good with that. Then we have a bunch of second readings and adoptions for policies.
I make a motion to approve second reading and adoption for AB, NH, New Hampshire Parental Bill of Rights, BEC, non-public sessions, BEDG, meeting minutes, EHAB, data governance and security, EHAG, use of generative artificial intelligence.
I'll second it.
Okay, this is the second and adoption time, so any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, passes.
Make a motion to withdraw the following policies, IKAA, which was rescinded June 2025 by the New Hampshire School Board Association for Interdisciplinary Credit, and ILBAA rescinded June 2025 regarding high school graduation competencies.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Pass. Next up, personnel. Just here.
Make a motion to approve of the personnel for the incoming professional staff, for a teacher, a special ed teacher, and a building-based substitute.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Do we just need to remove the special education
Yeah, I don't know what,
line? It looks like they may have declined the position.
so was that decline, so was it only for the teacher and the,
Is it just for two and one
Where
decline?
does that stand at?
right here?
So you have.
No, I know what it is. Where does that stand at?
As I understand it, we're moving forward with that person.
Yeah, so I think we would like to appoint the teacher.
Okay,
Originally declined and now is.
Okay.
okay, so my original
Motion stands.
motion stands.
Okay.
And seconded.
Yep, the motion and second already. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That will bring us up to our second public input, and I will open public input at this time. If you come up, come to the mic, state your name, where you're from.
I'm Diana Black from Barnstead. Thank you for bringing up the buses. That's actually what I wanted to bring up. I actually read your handbook too. And I'm going to just talk about how the buses have impacted my family. My daughter wasn't one of the ones left behind at the bus stop and absent that day of school. So in your handbook, you guys talk about empathy, self-control, integrity, grit, and intellectual curiosity. You actually recommend that we read it and actually read it with those characteristics, which I think is interesting. I would put responsibility in there. My daughter's 14. She's a freshman, the oldest, and she has a job. Not all 14-year-olds do. She relied on paperwork that she was given at the beginning of this year, saying she'll be home at 3:20. She said, I should be able to make it to my job at 5. That makes sense, right? Can tell you, the first week of school, she didn't. She literally got home at 4:45. 5 minutes even to Pittsfield, from where I live on the Pittsfield line, is enough time. Are we teaching them responsibility? Are we teaching them integrity? Did you guys do your due diligence in catching this bus company? I mean, I appreciate the fact that it's a statewide issue. I do. Was there bus runs? Because we have 9 in training now. Why wasn't that a thought before the school year started? Yeah, I'm frustrated. And I can tell you the drop-offs aren't any better. That I'll talk with most of you at tomorrow's school meeting. If I cannot leave my house at 7:15 and drop my first daughter off at BES because of the drop-off situation, and then bring my daughter here, who will then be tardy, because I left my house at 7:15. Some of you know where I live. It's 7 minutes from the school. I got here at 8:15. That's unacceptable on every level. So I guess I'm asking you, because the buses clearly work, and the drop-offs clearly work, how are we getting our kids to school on time and home on time? I'm assuming you guys, again, did your due diligence for this bus company. I'm thoroughly not impressed. Because not only are you allowing my daughter to be late for work, which again is not teaching her responsibility, not teaching her integrity. So I appreciate Broderick's email. He said he was frustrated. I think the parents are more frustrated. We deal with it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Kim Pika, I'm a Barnstead resident. Loss takes on many forms. It can be the loss of a loved one, the loss of health, or the loss of a friend or colleague. Each person experiences it differently, but what makes loss even harder is when it feels unnecessary, when it feels like it could have been prevented. When I moved to Barnstead almost 20 years ago, I was not thrilled about living in a small town, and my goal was to eventually move back to a more populated area. But as I got more involved in the community and eventually started working at the school, I slowly began to love it here. I loved going to work because I loved the kids, and I loved my colleagues. I had grown to love Barnstead, and I felt like this is where I belonged. That sense of belonging ended abruptly the day I was told to resign because I refused to work in a role that I was not qualified for. Of course, I moved on and found another job, but I shouldn't have had to. What was taken from me were the next 6 years, the precious years until my youngest would graduate from high school. I watch others in this community freely volunteer, coach, and be present in the lives of their children, enjoying the roles they chose and the time they deserve. I will never get those years back, and I will never get to be fully present, to contribute, to participate as I had envisioned. The loss is not just about a role or a position, it is about missing out on the life that I chose as a parent. The moment I no longer felt welcome in our schools was the moment I wanted to leave Barnstead, but my children were already in middle and high school at that point, so leaving was just not an option, as I didn't want to uproot their lives. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder if my children would have been better off had we moved to another town during this mass exodus of staff. Not only did the children in this community watch their beloved staff members leave, but they also felt the uncertainty and tension in the buildings. The remaining staff were grieving the loss of colleagues they worked closely with, and many are living in fear of losing their own positions. Children have a sixth sense when it comes to the emotions of the adults around them. They sense our fear, our sadness, and our uncertainty, even when we try to hide it. When I was asked to leave the district, I wondered what was being said about me after I was gone. And sure enough, the story was told that I up and quit on the very first day of school, and I burned my bridges at BES. That couldn't have been farther from the truth, but I didn't have any control over how this story was being told. What struck me later was how many others shared my same fear. Whenever I speak to someone who left under similar circumstances, their first words are almost always the same. What was said about me after I left? I've realized this is because we were all good people who cared deeply about our students, our colleagues, and our community. And good people care about their reputations. To have that stripped away after years of service is not only unfair, it is cruel. I do not stand here tonight for myself. I stand here for the many others who left under terrible circumstances. I stand here for the teachers and staff who walked away not because they wanted to, but because they were pushed out. I stand for those who are still carrying the trauma of what happened to them, the ones who struggle to find new jobs because of the damage done to their reputations, the ones who still live in fear as their termination was so life-altering, the ones who gave everything to this community and were cast aside. We won't forget these people. They were not just employees. They were mentors, friends, and the heart of our schools. Their absence is felt every day in the classrooms, in the hallways, and in the spirits of our children. Their scars remain, and the damage done to them continues to ripple through this community. Our district has been left in what feels like the aftermath of a storm, carrying both the devastation and the silence it leaves behind. Rebuilding our foundation will take time, but healing cannot begin until the breach in the system is openly acknowledged and addressed. I ask you, as our elected leaders, to listen to what is being shared. True accountability requires more than just silence. It requires you to hold leadership responsible and to take action so that no one else ever has to experience this kind of pain. To be honest, it is discouraging to sit in these meetings and watch moments of laughter around topics that feel comfortable, while the real issues, the pain of people who have lived through devastating and unfair terminations, receive little to no attention. These are not small matters. These are lives, families, and careers that have been shattered, and they deserve more than just a passing glance. I am committed to attending every board meeting this year to be a voice for this community, because while we've already lost so much, we cannot afford to lose any more.
Thank you. Is there any other public input? Seeing none, I will close second public input. So, yeah, future agenda items of follow-up for the next meeting. We'll have a report from buildings and grounds. I'm sure.
Continued update on buses.
Update on buses. I'm sure Jude will actually have a lot more things are going on. There's a lot of stuff going on, homecoming, and that kind of stuff. So that'd be kind of fun to have it through. We'll go further along on the budget.
Shared services update.
Shared service, that's right, you guys are having a meeting, so, and I assume maybe at that time, maybe a little more on the union negotiations, probably not, probably, we'll see, Okay. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? Seeing none, we'll move on from there. Future meetings, October 21st, 2025, and from there, we're gonna go into non-public, so make a motion.
Make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3 II, A, and C, and the 2025-2026 emergency operations